Hello everyone, my name is Maciej Nowak and welcome to Awesome to Know podcast where we discuss all things WordPress. My today's guest is Maciek Palmowski from Bodyworks. And this episode will be centered around automation of website builds. CI/CD is a broad topic that is recently gaining attention from WordPress world, and I hope you will learn something from this for yourselves. And this is a very interesting conversation for me personally, because we worked with Maciej together in the past. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Maciek Palmowski.
Hey everyone, it's good to have you here. We're glad you decided to tune in for this episode of the Awesome to Know podcast.
Hi Maciej, great to have you on the podcast.
Hi Maciej, yes, too Maciej is talking about technology. I mean, to be honest, it's also a great name for a podcast itself, right? Maciej's and technologies.
yeah, there are two Maciejs, and we worked for quite a bit together. And I think we've seen each other last time in Porto on WordCamp Europe, right?
Yes, exactly. We were trying to get some vegetables at the food court. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, but it was still possible, so that was great. Yeah. So today's episode is about continuous integration, continuous delivery.
And development, yes, because this is a very interesting abbreviation. We have this CI/CD, and it means so many things at once, dependent on what you are doing.
Yeah, so let's tackle this. So, what is CI/CD, and what value can it bring to the company or to the team or to the agency?
So, first of all, let's start with this abbreviation because, like I said, it can mean quite a lot. It consists of two parts. First of it is the CI, which means always continuous integration. And this means that every time when we change something in our code base, we run all the tests. So this means that we have to start working on our test suite in some way. Because, let's be honest, testing our software each time by us humans is pretty boring. And machines love doing this because they love repeating the same stuff over and over and over again.
I'm not sure if they love it or rather we make them do this. So it's like our doing that they love it or are capable of doing this.
I try to think that they really like the thing that they are doing because if not, I mean, it would be the first step towards the thing that happened in Terminator, right? They would rebel against us and we don't want this. So I try to think that they really like doing those repetitive things and we can concentrate only on things that matter. On the other hand, we have this CD part. There are few versions of what it means, but in general, it's either about continuous development or continuous deployment. One means that every time when this whole test suite gives us the green light, everything is okay, we are building our application and it's ready to be deployed. But a human being must press the button, must say, yes, let's deploy it. And when it comes to continuous deployment, as the name stands, we are deploying continuously. So every time everything went through, every time our code base on some selected branch is ready to go, we are deploying it automatically. This is very difficult to achieve because you have to be 100% sure about all your tests, about all your code base, about everything. Because there is no control about pressing the button when to release. If someone will push a fix on Friday and it will pass the test, it will get deployed. So if our testing suite is lacking, we just may destroy our weekend for the whole team.
Yeah, so about deploying on Fridays, we will get to that. What can go wrong? But let's unpack the whole CI/CD concept a little bit more. So the first stage or the first phase is continuous integration. So there are the tests. There is the code like creation and making sure this is passing the test and it's working. So what's the alternative to doing this automatically? Because, for example, we are using CI/CD as well in Awesome Studio, and when I'm thinking if we can go back, it's no option for me. So I cannot imagine a world without the whole suite of automation. But there is like a huge number of agencies or freelancers that still are not using this for their environment. So let's compare it. What is providing, what CI/CD stack is providing for this stage versus what you have to do manually if you want to build something?
With building tests, there is one problem, and this is one of the reasons why many companies say we are not interested in it. At the beginning, it's a bit more work because you have to write some of those tests, because there are two types of tests: those that only need a configuration file and those that require manually writing tests. So the second one will add few hours to your work, and many companies will say we don't have time for it.
Or budget.
But on the other hand, the same company, probably a month later, while fixing many things on production because they didn't tested it, will start wasting the budget they just saved. So trying to explain, trying to say we don't have time or money, in the long run, it's a bit of a lie, because in the long run, having at least some tests, some basic testing, will always turn out to be something positive, will be a kind of huge gain for the company that uses it. So every time when you think about, let's not add testing because it wastes our time, think again. Because like I said, in the long run. So of course, yes, if you are doing a real micro project that will take you an hour, probably adding tests, it's a bit of a stretch here. But the moment when you are building something with keeping this client for a longer time, because you will be, adding some new features over time and things like this, adding some tests is a must-have.
Okay, but you started this even one step before. So first of all, you have to decide if I'm going to run the test. So assuming, you are now discussing if it is worth testing your software or not. So I guess, we are past this past this question. So there is the decision to do the tests, and this falls into this first stage or first phase where we integrate our software with new release. So, in which situation? Because this is interesting, because this is like there is that concept of CI/CD no one's understand, and there can fall a lot of different operations that can be automated. One of them are tests, but for example, where ends continuous integration and where starts deployment? Deployment is easy if we substitute D for deployment, because this can be also delivered depending on who you talk with, right? So what else apart from the tests can you do in continuous integration? And maybe I have this tendency to ask the wrong questions, so sorry about this, but in order to work with CI/CD environment, you have to think in this way that you are actually integrating some software. So this is a little bit different process than I start development I shut the doors, and then after 2 months, I'm back with ready software, right? So it's a little bit of a different approach, right?
Yes, I would think of it when it comes to this whole CI part. I think of it like every time when you are doing something, if you see that there is a task, you start repeating, automate it, just like this. I mean, it's as simple as that sometimes. So if, for example, you see that every time you want to provide yourself a staging environment, you have to download some files from somewhere, and you know that each time you are doing it manually, add this one line to your script. Just I don't know, using curl or something else, just download those files and create a script. It's all about finding those things that you are doing manually and automating them. Some time ago, I had a great conversation with Christian Dangle. He's a specialist when it comes to writing end-to-end tests. So those are when you are having your browser and you are in an automatic way giving it orders. Go here, click here, do something. And he showed me how first they write those automation scenarios. I didn't know about this because when it comes to end-to-end testing, for example, first it's all about writing scenarios. So there are detailed steps what to do. And later, some of them are automated, but some of them require manual testing. But when you have a scenario, it's so easy to follow. And this is a really excellent example of when you have this scenario, it's easy to either send it to some people who are manual testers and will follow step by step to see if everything is working as it should, or to convert it to algorithm because you have step by step. You have like literally described that go here. So we are just writing this in, for example, in Cypress. Go to this site, click here, click here. For example, some new box should appear. If it appeared, perfect, test passed. If not, well, not. And there is a lot of software, especially in the enterprise grade, that integrates those manual and automatic testing. Because this is also the thing we started talking about automatic testing, but there is still a lot of place for manual testing because there are things that are quite difficult to. End-to-end tests have this tendency that they sometimes give you false positives or false negatives. And if you see that some test is falling quite often this way, this is the test that you probably will either have to rethink or just hire someone who will be checking this one thing. But it's still about if you have like 2,000 tests in general, it's still better to automate 900 or because I said 2,000 or 1,000?
Yeah, 2,000.
So 1,900 and only have 100 to do that have to be done manually rather doing every of them. So it's also about some getting rid of some extra work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and because I know that the whole definition of CI/CD kind of sounds scary, but it's kind of like in Scooby-Doo, and in the end of each episode when they take off the mask of this monster, and it's not a monster, it's just a person. And with CI/CD, it's the same. It's not something. It's not some very complicated IT concept. It's just all about automating the things that we are doing manually. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I think we always worry about or are scared about the unknown, and it's umbrella term CI/CD, and That's why I want to unpack it, because I think it can bring so much value to everyone in the ecosystem of building software, because this can bring value to the agency that can be more efficient and be less error prone when building websites, but also to the client who can has own development team for the platform that they are doing. And I guess that if you are not equipped with CI/CD suite and building your website or your e-commerce platform internally, this is a huge red flag, because if you have your own team and doing this, it means that you're wasting time of your team, and you're exposing yourself to problems, because this is the area I like the most. Let's move to the deployment. So what can you automate regarding deployment so that this is very useful to the development team?
So there are few scenarios, and this is also the cool thing. It really depends on what we need. In the simplest scenario, when we have like a simple website and we work on a staging platform and on the production platform, it's easy for us that we don't have to remember to share all the passwords, all the logins to the whole team, because the CI/CD platform provides auto deployments, for example, on the staging side. So every time when we, for example, commit something to the development branch, it goes to our staging server, for example. Every time we are ready to go with the production side, we just press the button and it goes to the production. This is cool, but this is simple. On the other hand, one of the very important parts, especially right now, because we are living in the era when we are constantly using some package managers like Composer, like NPM. Python has one of its own. Like almost every modern programming language has a package library, and we don't put all those libraries into our repository. We just have a JSON or a YAML, it depends on the language, file that consists of libraries we will use. And every time before the deployment, we will run, for example, npm install or composer install or something like this. And we don't have to worry about this. And this is cool. This is very cool. It makes our work much easier, and our repository is much cleaner. But on the other hand, we can go forward, and there are things like atomic deployments. So those are those zero-time deployments. So the user our viewer or our client won't even see when the deployment happened. There won't be any error. There won't be any message like, sorry, we are deploying maintenance time or something like this. And atomic deployment is, again, this is a very cool term that sounds a bit scary, but it's just a list of procedures that we are just moving files into one place. Then we are using the symbolic link. That's it. It's not as scary. But doing it manually, it's boring. Let's be honest, it's boring. Most things about deployment, it's waiting and doing few operations. It's boring, just like this. And thanks to automation, we can just press the button and go grab ourselves.
I would like to stop here for a second and get back one idea. You mentioned automation. You mentioned the process of automation for dependency management. So referencing all of the external libraries, and this is for our less technical listeners, so that they can understand this better. So this is a process in which you don't manually download all of the libraries. What you are focusing on is indicating which libraries should be downloaded by the environment, by this tool. And this means for the process that you are not doing this manually, so your developers are not wasting time, and you are not doing this manually, so you are not prone to errors doing this manually, moving files around. So this is both time saver and more consistent approach to managing your dependencies. So this is for, do I get this right? Did I convey the message correctly?
Because it's all about having this big library of classes, files, and everything, and not having to keep it in our project, in our repository. We are just pointing out we want this version of this library, this version of that, and that's it.
Yeah, thanks for this. And also the atomic deployment is very interesting for me because you mentioned this sounds scary. For me, what sounds scary is not doing this in an automatic way, because the consequences are, if you have to shut down your website or turn maintenance mode on the website, this means you are not serving your visitors. And this means you are not, for example, for e-commerce, like selling, and this is directly impacting your business, depending on the business, of course. But also, if you want to replace this atomic, because I'm always thinking like, okay, if not this, then what's the scenario? What's the solution? And if you are not doing this atomically, like seamlessly, which is the best possible way, you are either shutting down the website or doing this because the transition moment is exposing yourself to unstable state, because machine it's a state machine there. So there is that part where switching is being inconsistent with the files, and then can be errors, and you can mitigate this by doing this manually, which can be automated with atomic deployments. So I'm thinking, what are the consequences of not doing this the right way, and in terms of in a way that what you will sacrifice or what you have to spend to do this right?
You use a very good example of when it comes to CI/CD.
Thank you.
Because explaining CI/CD and why it matters to a client that has a blog or a content site, it's much more difficult rather than explaining it to a client that has a e-commerce site. Why? Because as you said it, if the website isn't working, even for 5 minutes, we are losing money. And this is the best way to convince everyone. And yes, we can do it manually. We can do it without automatic deployments. But we will be losing money if we are having an e-commerce. So it's at this point, it's more of a business decision. Do we want to lose money, or do we want to, sacrifice, or it's not sacrificing because it's more investing an hour of our developers to prepare our pipeline to work just like this? Or on the other hand, because there are many services, for example, Amazon Beanstalk, that will do it for us. We just provide them the files as a one big zip file, and that's it. They will take care of the rest. So like I said, it's right now choosing between having CI/CD and having those atomic deployments. It's a business decision. Do we want to lose money or not? If we can afford it, okay, go for it. It's your business. It's your decision. But from the technical point of view, really automate stuff. And especially Maciej, you also mentioned one more very interesting thing about this state machine. This unstable state is something dangerous because you never know.
I know.
You never know what will happen, because there is a possibility that for a second you will, for example, expose your passwords for some reasons. Because, for example, you have to...
Security rules.
Yeah, exactly. Because, for example, you have to stop your server for a second because of something. So the second your PHP server is not working, and if you, for example, have a WordPress site, if someone will enter your WP config file and it won't be parsed as PHP file, you will see everything. So every time, all those uncertain states when you are not sure what can happen, we should avoid them at all costs, because the surprises might be really terrible.
Yeah, when you mentioned this, and when PHP can cause troubles like file being not recognized as PHP, I have this like analog idea. I mean, parallel idea of DNA replication, and the most vulnerable state is when the DNA is replicating, because this is prone to mutations, and mutations can be very bad. Of course, they can be good because this is the evolution, playing. But this is the unstable state, and we have to protect this because we can be exposed for problems. But I'm also thinking, there has to be like a minimum, how to put it. Maybe if we shut down our website or e-commerce for an hour or for half a day, it won't make a dent in our results. So there has to be a certain level where we start to care about the process. And as you mentioned, for blog owner, it might be the case because it is, for example, known blogger, lots of traffic, but traffic means ads or served ads. So this is also making impact, but maybe there is someone not known, and this is not worth the effort. So with this long intro, I want to ask you, what's the entry barrier? So is there like a learning curve to this? Is it big, or how much do you have to invest in order to use CI/CD efficiently?
Trying to implement the whole CI/CD stack is difficult. Yes, it is, especially that if you don't have it. If you don't have anything, your website didn't had any tests. So if we have something like this, implementing the whole CI/CD methodology, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It will take a lot of time. But what's important is to go step by step. The first and easiest way is to start with the deployment part, with automating at least some of it. So, for example, let's not keep our passwords, and let's not use FileZilla to deploy files. Let's put everything in a Git repository. Let's connect it with either, Buddy, with GitHub Actions, with something like this. And let's deploy it by pressing a button. Next step, automating all those build process, all those npm run builds, npm installs. The same goes with Composer. So every time we press run, more and more things happen. When we have this, I would start with looking at your CI/CD platform, looking what tests it has out of the box. For example, if you are using Buddy, you can check your page speed score, or you can compare screenshots of before and after. It's easy. You just provide a URL. It doesn't take time, and it gives you a first layer of tests. Next step, doing those tests that only require configuration. When it comes to PHP world, because I'm mostly a PHP developer, there are things like PHP Stan, like PHP code sniffer. So you can check if your code is written in a correct way. And thanks to PHP Stan, you can find a lot of small errors just by using one configuration file. It's really amazing that the amount of work you have to invest in making them work. It's like 1 hour, and it will work every time. So every time before deployment. So maybe another way. We didn't wrote any test yet, and we were able to deploy, build, and check quite a few things already without writing any test. So this is amazing. And there are applications. I think it's called Ghost Inspector. It's a very nice tool to start your adventure with end-to-end testing. It's more of you write them by recording what you want to do. So if you know that you have on your website some crucial things like checking if your mail form is working or is adding to cart working, again going to those e-commerce example, you just use Ghost Inspector, record your flow, and it will check it every time. So again, we didn't wrote a line of code, and we were able to test quite a lot. So, but the most important thing is to do it slowly, step by step. Don't rush, because the moment when you try at some point in your company, okay, everyone, we are going CI/CD, full speed ahead. It will collapse. Everyone will be angry. Everyone will be furious. It won't work. And the only thing that you will do is waste, I don't know, a few months or something. And you probably won't achieve anything because...
and goodwill as well, I guess, because
Exactly.
you will get burned. And because if you have a big team, let's imagine you have your internal team for building e-commerce platform, because we are in e-commerce and you have internal engineers. Introducing this in a big organization, it's like a change management. There will be always people who were advocates of the new idea, but also there will be people that are happy with the way the things are right now, and they will
There will be resistance.
sabotage.
There will be resistance. Exactly.
Exactly. And you have to orchestrate the whole change, work with the people, and make them believe in the idea and also in the outcomes. But I guess this is a process rather than operation, like atomic operation. Now we are doing the continuous integration.
Exactly. That's why it's important to understand the big picture, how it works, but really go slowly, because it will be better even if it will take you more than a year, but you will implement most of it rather than after 2 months you will just raise the white flag and say, yeah, CI/CD sucks because no one wants to use it. Yeah, of course no one will want to use it because you try to implement it in the worst way possible.
Yeah, and from what I'm thinking about, like CI/CD, in my opinion at least, the best way to integrate this, or like use this in a way that it won't break too many things at once, is using this to deploy. Because if you're an entity or agency or a company that already uses Git flow or another code repository, which is I hope everyone listening is using repository for storing code.
You might be surprised.
I know, but it's like wishful thinking from my end here. Yeah, but let's assume you are using a repository to store your code. So there is that possibility to automatically deploy the code once you are merging from development branch into master. So this is the ideally a moment in which your code is mature enough to be deployed to the production environment, and instead moving the files by hand, you can automate it. Is this like, is it, from your experience, is it a good moment, or maybe there is some even lower hanging fruit to use as a first step for the listeners trying to think, okay, what's in it for me? Where can I use it?
I think that the deployment part is really the best, because the deployment part has one more thing. The effect of the deployment is real. You can see it. You just refresh the website and oh, it's there. And when it comes to tests, yes, something passed. Terrific. I don't get it. And deployments are real. So this is the first thing, and the moment when you see how it's easier to, because deployments give you many things. For example, like I mentioned, the security part, you won't have to worry about giving away passwords or managing them, because if you if your employee just changes the job or you have to fire him, it doesn't matter. You just deactivate his account on the CI/CD platform, and that's it. You don't have to worry about, okay, where was this password used? Who knows it? And I know some examples when sometimes I think that like hundreds of people already know the password to one of my clients' FTP, because I know with how many people he collaborated, and he didn't think about using CI/CD, and at this moment changing those passwords would be it would be an easy operation, but yeah, it would be funny. It would be really funny.
But it also is the other way around. So, for example, if you're an agency, different companies have different models, obviously. But if you're in an agency and the given employee has access to number of websites, this is also like centralized operation to remove this access for that given person.
Exactly. Of course, the downside is every time when we centralize something, if the centralized part breaks for some reasons, we might be in trouble. But yeah, but still, we have to. Again, this is a decision we are making. It's still better to centralize some things and have it in control, rather than give away everything to everyone and at some point try to figure out, okay, so who has what.
Exactly. And is Buddy using Buddy for CI/CD?
Yes, of course. I mean, in general, the history of Buddy is interesting, because there was a product before Buddy. I don't remember its name. It was, but I remember I tried to use it, and it was a very good idea, because it was something between Asana or Trello, but together with all those developer tools like CI/CD. But the guys quickly realized that yeah, it won't work for most of the people. That's why they just kept the CI/CD part, and I mean, still, I'm kind of surprised that there are so few applications like Buddy when it comes to the UI and the UX. Thinking that most developers like to write everything in JSONs or in YAML files, that's not true. It's the same as saying that every developer only use Git through the CLI. That's not true. Many of us prefer having a GUI, and the same goes here. It's much easier to concentrate on what matters, right? Because we don't have to. Okay, so how was the syntax? How to write it? And we are just moving the blocks, clicking.
Mm-hmm. And what's on the roadmap for Buddy? What's brewing for 2023?
Probably more and more integrations, because let's be honest, everything is changing so quickly. There, every day a new JS framework. On the other hand, we are still working on the actions related to Android and iOS, so you will be able to build everything using Buddy, and it will work much better. And still we are polishing the sandboxes, so our environment to have staging websites inside of Buddy. So more and more. So I think that it's more, the upcoming year is more about polishing what we already have, rather than something new. But on the longer roadmap, there will be really cool things coming, but it's a secret right now.
All right, sure. But does this mean that, for example, right now you where it was focused for web tools only, on web tools only, and now you will no.
Oh, I mean, we are focusing on everything because let's be honest, when it comes to JavaScript, some things are already done, the foundation. And I mean, big thanks to the whole JavaScript movement that if you see most of the frameworks, they work the same. The deployment process is the same. So if we were able to create a process for one framework, we are ready for all of them. And this is really great. And we are going with those Android and iOS because we heard from our clients that this is something they would like to have. But we are focusing on, I think, everything kind of equally. For sure, at this time, because we don't have too much iOS and Android developers in our team, so it's more about gaining experience and learning from other people. So yeah, we are going quite wide. But still, because everything is based on Docker. If there is a Docker image, you can try it.
Okay, yeah. So there's a little bit of a universal platform that you can build on, and this doesn't mean you have to invest in every single direction, but rather utilize what's already there and available.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And I really hope that after all those iOS and Android integrations, we'll also have some time to invest more in those little tests that will run just out of the box, because they're so useful. Because, like I mentioned, it's great to have an opportunity just to enter your URL or file path and let the magic happen, especially when you begin your journey when it comes to CI/CD. I know it's scary. You just did your first thing. Yes, it's auto deploying. So let's go further. And all those. I'm a big fan of, for example, this screen comparison action, because it's so easy to use. I know that it's not the most powerful. There are much better scripts, but they require a lot of configuration. And here you just pass the URL and it works. Before the deploy, you can see that, oh god, the CSS we just corrected, it doesn't work as we thought. Great, we just saved ourselves from deploying a broken version.
Yeah, and there is that very popular concept or visualization cost that is generated compared to what stage something happens. So, for example, if you're prototyping, the cost is insignificant. Then you have full design, then you have demo or MVP, and then you are on the production, and the costs are like crazy high, especially for manufacturing, where you have physical product and you have to get back all of like service action of Toyota brakes or whatever other car manufacturer has its service action. So it goes in millions. In software, it's a little bit easier because you can do this with one click. You can correct stuff with one click. But if you have a flaw in the whole journey, for example, and you have to rework from UX perspective something, this is very problematic. With bugs, this is also problematic, but it could be prevented. And I think this is very interesting that CI/CD can help you automate preventing bad stuff happening.
Exactly. I mean, during WordCamp in Porto, I had these workshops about automating deployments and preventing bad stuff happen, and I showed step by step what we can prevent, which level of our code. And really, there are so many tests we can run, and there are so many great applications that can help, like this Ghost Inspector that I mentioned. Probably there are much more of them, but I also don't know all of them because, every day new application, new tool. But we are really living in a in beautiful times, it's really so easy for us to be sure that our website, our code, our application, whatever we are doing, is working. It's working, and I mean, it's getting more and more difficult to find excuses why we messed up the deployment. Really,
I have.
I know it happens. It happens still, but
at the same time, the users are not forgiving because it's there is so much great design and great interfaces and usability out there that you have your expectations, and if you are landing on a web shop that is providing great products at great prices, if it is not also looking at least stable and not buggy, this might be an indicator of a scam, not a web shop, but of a scam. So it is merciless. You have to be on the edge of great product, whether this is a software, corporate software, or web shop, or application, web application.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is one of the reasons when every time I go to Amazon, I feel like I just hate it.
Well, it's cheap even.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is for me. This is amazing how such a company. Because let's be honest, Amazon doesn't look pretty. I also think it's not so easy to use. For me at least, I don't know why. And every time when I land on Amazon, it's like, no, I would probably.
But it's by design.
Yeah, but
I'm looking forward to that book that will be written someday about Amazon design. So what was the thinking? What were the tests run? Because I bet there's a ton of usability tests. I'm pretty sure about this because they test everything, and they have that user base that allows for testing. So I'm pretty sure this is all by design. And I feel you. I have the same feeling like, okay, where do I click now? I'm lost,
yes,
right? But
it also doesn't look good. Just like this, it's not pretty. I know that there are more important things, but I know that this is Amazon. This is a company that has like billions of dollars. So no, thank you. I will go somewhere else. I will find the product on a place that is more user friendly, at least for me. And I know that I know that Amazon is doing everything for the majority of their clients. I am just not one of them, and okay, that's cool.
Yep, that's fine. So wrapping this up slowly, Maciej, is there anything our listeners can help you with, or would you like to say something at the end of the recording?
I would like to say that at least give automation a try. Really, with automation, I mean, it's quite difficult to spread the word about it. Why? Because I always say that automation is the boring glue that connects all the cool stuff. So, for example, we have our cool application that is written by our great developers using great libraries. And on the other hand, we are using this magnificent hosting that has some amazing technologies. And between them, this is the CI/CD that is just moving one thing, testing it, pushing it to another.
Bridging the gap.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's hard to say. Yes, CI/CD is the most exciting thing in the release process, because no, it's not. But still, it's so useful. It's so useful. It will save you so much time. And we discussed about those Friday deployments. At some point, I even wrote a small action that checks If it's Friday, it breaks the deployment. It prevents.
That's nice. I love it. I have to introduce. I mean, we are not doing this on Fridays, but I think this is an interesting check. If it is Friday, you shouldn't be doing this or even thinking about this.
Exactly. I mean, it runs all the tests. You can put it at any place you want, of course, but. I always thought of it about putting it just before the deployment. So let the test run everything but the deployment. Sorry, it's Friday. Don't do it.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think we can make a title of this episode even. I will think about it.
I think that the title of the episode is today we have, which day? We have Tuesday, right? So yeah, it was a very difficult Tuesday to record this podcast. We had so many technical problems before, but we managed it. So
exactly. Yeah, Maciej, thank you so much for having the time to record the episode with me today, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
If you like what you've just heard, don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. On the other hand, if you've got a question we haven't answered yet, feel free to reach out to us directly. Just go to awesomestudio.com/contact. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode of the Awesome to Know podcast.